In the dense forests of upstate New York, 143 unmarked graves were discovered in 1862 beneath the floorboards of an abandoned church. Local authorities documented that each skeleton showed signs of systematic torture, fractured limbs that had healed before death, evidence of repeated near-drowning, and strange markings carved into their bones. For over 160 years, federal records about the Church of the Pure Spirit remain sealed, accessible only to those with special clearance. Recently obtained documents detail how three brothers, known as Elder Ezra, Deacon Silas, and Prophet Caleb Ravencroft, convinced hundreds of devoted followers that suffering was the only path to salvation. Their dark rituals of purification led to what may be the most disturbing religious cult in American history. The small settlement of Ravenwood in upstate New York was founded in 1803 by settlers moving north from the Hudson Valley. Like much of upstate New York during this period, Ravenwood found itself at the epicenter of the Second Great Awakening, a period of intense religious revival that swept across America in the early 1800s. The Ravencroft brothers arrived in the summer of 1825. Elder Ezra, the eldest at 42, had a commanding presence. Deacon Silas, 39, appeared more scholarly with wire-rimmed spectacles. Prophet Caleb, the youngest at 35, possessed an unsettling quality, often speaking in whispers and claiming divine visions. The brothers purchased a large tract of land and constructed the Church of the Pure Spirit, built of dark stone with unusual architecture, a central octagonal sanctuary surrounded by 8 smaller chambers with no windows in the main sanctuary. Their doctrine emphasized that true salvation could only be achieved through physical suffering that burned away sin and impurity. The congregation grew steadily through their first year, with members predominantly coming from 3 groups: the desperately poor, seeking community; the deeply troubled seeking redemption; and the wealthy seeking spiritual experiences beyond traditional churches. By 1827, the church had grown to nearly 100 members. The most devoted followers were invited to become vessels of the Spirit, undergoing more intensive purification rituals that began with extended fasting, night-long prayer vigils, and rituals involving ice-cold water. The transformation from unusual religious community to something more sinister began on December 21, 1829, the winter solstice. During what was called the First Ascension, 3 members were selected for special rituals. They were stripped to their undergarments despite the freezing temperature, bound to inverted crosses, and subjected to the 7 trials of purification. These trials included the trial of air, wet cloths placed over their faces, while water was slowly poured over them; the trial of earth, soil packed around their bodies up to their necks; the trial of fire, heated metal implements pressed against their skin; the trial of water, repeated submersion in ice-cold water until unconsciousness. Throughout these tortures, the congregation chanted, "Through suffering comes purity. Through purity comes elevation." By sunrise, all 3 were dead. Their bodies were not buried, but placed in newly constructed chambers beneath the church, where congregation members could view them as holy relics. These were the first of what would eventually become hundreds of bodies stored in the catacombs beneath the church. Several congregation members fled after this event, but those who remained became even more devoted. From 1830 to 1845, the Ravencroft brothers refined their methods. The underground chambers were expanded into an elaborate network serving specific functions: the Chamber of Preparation, the Chamber of Trials, the Chamber of Ascension, and the Chamber of Saints, where bodies were preserved in various states. The frequency of elevations increased from 2 ceremonies in 1830 to monthly events by 1840. The brothers became selective in choosing candidates, initially favoring those without family connections, later selecting from devoted families within the congregation. Facing the practical challenge of disposing of evidence, the brothers established relationships with agents who supplied medical schools with cadavers. Between 1840 and 1845, at least 67 vessels were sold to medical institutions in Albany, New York City, and Philadelphia. By 1845, the church's membership had grown to nearly 300. Rumors began spreading about people who joined the church only to disappear from public life. The first official investigation began in 1847, when Postal Inspector James Thornhill noticed unusual banking transactions connected to the church. His investigation aligned with testimony from Martha Simmons, a former member who had fled after witnessing her sister's elevation. In 1850, Dr. William Garrett, a physician in Albany, provided detailed medical reports on 7 bodies he had examined that showed signs of systematic antemortem trauma and evidence of asphyxiation. The breakthrough came in 1851, when Prophet Caleb's mental state deteriorated significantly. After being confined by his brothers, he escaped and appeared naked in Ravenwood's town square, describing the rituals conducted beneath the church in explicit detail. His testimony, combined with maps he drew of the underground chambers, finally secured authorization for an official investigation. However, Elder Ezra and Deacon Silas learned of the investigation and set a controlled fire in the main church building, destroying much evidence. Despite the destruction, investigators found enough evidence to confirm the disturbing aspects of Prophet Caleb's confession: specialized restraints, torture tools, embalming chemicals, and dozens of human remains in the Chamber of Saints. Elder Ezra and Deacon Silas were arrested on multiple charges of murder, fraud, and desecration of human remains. The investigation revealed their activities extended beyond Ravenwood, with evidence of similar operations in Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and Ohio dating back to 1817. The most disturbing discovery was that the brothers had been conducting systematic experiments on living subjects, documenting their findings, and selling both the bodies and their research to medical institutions. In 1852, Elder Ezra and Deacon Silas were found guilty on all counts and sentenced to death by hanging. Before the execution, a fire broke out in the Albany jail where they were being held. Deacon Silas was reportedly killed, but Elder Ezra escaped and was never recaptured. The official investigation concluded in 1862, with all evidence sealed in a special government archive. The case had a profound impact on medical ethics, leading the American Medical Association to adopt its first formal code of ethics regarding anatomical specimens in 1855. The legacy of the Ravencroft brothers persists as a stark warning about the dangers when charismatic authority, religious fervor, and scientific curiosity combine without moral constraint.